So, what are the Tenno? To know what the Tenno are, we must first learn how they came to be. The Tenno are the survivors of the Zariman 10-0 ship that was stranded in the void following what's known as the void jump accident. This was caused by internal sabotage by some of the ship's passengers due to the Origin and, more importantly, Executor Tubu's insistence on launching the ship in a single leap. The ship's name is also where the Tenno will get their nickname from. While in the void, the adults succumbed to madness and they were all killed. The remaining children barricaded themselves in the ship, and the player character encounters the entity known as the Man in the Wall. He then makes a deal with the player character, which gives us and the rest of the Zariman survivors void powers. After this, the Zariman 10-0 is found again with only the children on board. The Archimedean known as Margulis took pity on the children and started caring for them. She then developed transference therapy to help contain the Tenno's power within the vessel. In Rhino Prime's codex, it mentions how a rampaging proto-Warframe, presumably Rhino, could be pacified when coming to close proximity with the Tenno. The Tenno are placed on the moon at this time in a place called the Reservoir. While this was happening, the Origin Society was in a war with a faction known as the Sentients. The Sentients are robots made for terraforming planets and were sent to the Tau system to make the system inhabitable for the Origin and its citizens, as they were ruining the Sol system and draining its resources. As a result, the Sentients were manufactured with what's known as adaptability, so they would adapt to any sort of damage dealt to them, albeit with a weakness to the void, which would weaken them and even render them infertile. The Sentients gaining sentience realized the Origin would also ruin the Tau system and decided to turn on the Origin and wipe them out. This conflict would be known as the Old War. During this time, the Origin distrusted the Tenno and referred to them as devils and even wanted them dead. But with the threat of extinction by the then unstoppable Sentients due to their adaptability and ability to control technology, they needed a new weapon. Initially, the Origin tried using the infestation against the Sentients, but they were ineffective. An example of this is Lephantis. They then tried using infested enhanced super soldiers with the existing warriors, volunteers or not, to become the Warframes. But they would go mad and couldn't be controlled when sent onto the battlefield. These would also be referred to as the biodrones by an executor known as Ballas. The machines, known as the Necromechs, were also used against the Sentients but were phased out in favor of a new weapon, one that would turn the tide of war. The Origin turned to the Tenno since they were able to control the Warframes. Since Margulis opposed them, she was sentenced to death through an execution method known as the Jade Light. The Tenno, now controlling the Warframes, could defeat the Sentients and turn the tide of war since they channeled the only major weakness the Sentients had. The Tenno also founded great schools known as the Tenno Ways. Later, the sentient spy known as Natah attempted to infiltrate the Origin and kill the Tenno. However, she was intercepted by the Origin and made to replicate Margulis by the executor Ballas. From then on, she is known as the Lotus. As such, she is unable to fulfill her tasks and instead guides the Tenno. At the end of the war, as the Origin were honoring the Tenno turned on the Origin and killed an unknown number of members, but most of the executors would escape this event unscathed, but the Empire would fall regardless. The Tenno are then put to quiet sleep until the start of the game, where they are woken by the Lotus as the Grenadier known as Captain Vor was hunting them down. That's all for the Tenno's background. Now for the physical attributes and other information. The Tenno appear as children due to the cryosleep and as such are physically weak. Although they have access to the void powers and the Warframes, they are still susceptible to normal damage as any other being, can die from injury and age as seen with Rel during Chains of Harrow. The Tenno are seemingly able to use transference with less risk to control an entity. Normal people can use transference, but not for long, otherwise they risk getting stuck in the controlled entity, such as Sylvana being stuck in the Silver Grove. It's also not known how many Tenno there are in total, but it's only enough to keep the major factions in balance and not the full-on major faction themselves, which is why they operate in small-scale missions, sabotage, spy, assassination, etc. Other than the player character and Rel, there are no significant Tenno in the story currently, and that's all we know about the Tenno thus far.